cheap PC games? Check out Kinguin.net. Click the link in the description below to help support the channel and never pay full retail again.
Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching Bad Seed Tech, and today we're taking a look at the Ultralight Phantom from Final Mouse. Now, this is basically an evolution of the Ultralight Pro, which I've reviewed here. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'd highly recommend you watch it before we get started. Now, because I still get a lot of comments on that video about that mouse being sold out everywhere, let me be completely upfront about something. This mouse is sold out everywhere. eBay is the only place you'll hope to score one of these. They're not released very often, they're released in very limited quantities, and the resellers know this and take full advantage. So in a nutshell, what we have here is an extremely lightweight mouse geared towards FPS use, and it's absent of any kind of convenience features, so no weight adjustment system, no RGB lighting, no stored profiles. The Phantom includes a matte top coating and a one-off splatter paint job, making each mouse unique. It's able to keep the total weight down because the shell of this mouse and the lower plate are all punched out with these little hexagonal holes. No worries on this open body design in terms of keeping it clean, just a can of air every once in a while and you're back in action. For hardware, it's got all the usual suspects, so Omron switches and a PMW 3360 sensor. Roughly measured, I have it at just under 130 millimeters long, 60 millimeters wide, and 40 millimeters tall, with a curb weight of 67 grams, not including the cable. And that's the big difference and selling point between this mouse and its predecessor in terms of design. See, the problem with having a really light mouse is that if the cable's too stiff, it can create resistance or pushback when you're trying to maneuver the mouse. I saw this a lot with the original Ultralight Pro. So much so that I, along with many others, opted to mod their original with a paracord mod. The Final Mouse took notice of this and introduced the Phantom Cord. This is their attempt at an extremely flexible mouse cable that they say is better than a paracord. In reality, it's really just more convenient than a paracord mod. See, a real mod doesn't have to include any type of EMI shielding to be compliant, where a manufacturer has to have some sort of shielding in place to reduce or eliminate EMI or electromagnetic interference. If that shielding is thick, it can make cables stiff. Now, in fairness, the Phantom Cord is the most flexible stock mouse cable I've ever used. They've most likely used a very thin shielding here, which is why you'll also see a ferrite core near the USB plug. Personally, I prefer the paracord mod over the Phantom Cord. It's still more flexible and really feels like you're using a wireless mouse. Granted, there is some additional cost and wait time if you're buying a pre-made cable, and the potentially risky task of making your own cable and or cracking open your really expensive limited edition mouse to install it. So again, there's no software with this mouse. You get a DPI adjustment with a single button for 400, 800, 1600, and 3200. A viewer named Alex Murray pointed out on the Ultralight Pro video that you can use Dream Machine's DM1 Pro software to change some of the settings on the internals of this mouse, but you do so at your own risk. This mouse comes stock with a polling rate of 500 hertz, and I have heard horror stories of people trying to mod it and change it. It doesn't act right, and then they're not able to change it back to the stock 500. So let's address the elephant in the room here, and that has to be the scroll wheel. I personally like the feel of this thing, but it doesn't get great reviews. These mainly revolve around the fact that the scroll wheel has a pretty reserved amount of steps for each scroll. This doesn't affect me in FPS, but it may affect you depending on what kind of games you play or how you use this mouse outside of gaming. There are some reports of quality control issues with the scroll wheel as well. You don't have to dig too far into Google to find people whose scroll wheel has not stood up to the test of time, so hopefully Final Mouse addresses some of this in future releases. The negatives for me, not surprisingly, are the same ones that exist with the base model. The one is objective. The mouse could have better glides, and the area where those glides are located could have less of a pronounced ridge actually poured into the plastic mold there. This thing practically begs for hyperglides. The other is totally subjective, and that's the comfort of this mouse for me. My hand's a little shy of 21 centimeters from palm to fingertip. Where my grip naturally hits this mouse, my ring finger rubs right against this pointed edge near the top of the frame. So I can keep a comfortable grip and deal with the sore finger, or I can adjust my grip to something that feels less natural for me, but that's totally me. As such, that kind of leaves me in a weird place with this mouse. It feels great in game, as most of the mice I use also use a PMW 3360. It looks seriously badass on the desk, and it has the esteem of being both highly coveted and hard to get your hands on. But I don't use it as a daily driver because of my issues with the comfort. For me, it's that really nice ride that stays parked in the garage that you only take out from time to time, which sucks because I honestly can't tell you how well this thing deals with repeated use or stands up to the test of time because it just doesn't see enough action from me. I would be pretty curious to know how the coating of this mouse holds up over time. eBay sale prices right now for this mouse are crazy. If you can get away for less than $175, you've done well. If you've got deep pockets or just looking for some bragging rights, go for it. For the rest of the world, grab a G403 or a G Pro or something from Zowie's FK line and do a paracord mod. Yeah, it won't be as light, but come on, it's not like it's going to be the deciding factor on whether or not you make the championships this year. So the next big release from Final Mouse is coming on December 1. No word yet exactly on what that drop will be or whether it will include a restock of any of the older ultralight models, though they have gone on record and stated that this release of the Phantom is the only time this will ever be released. I'd say I'd keep you posted on this, but I have no contacts at Final Mouse, and they're notoriously hypey and secretive leading up to their releases, so start stacking your money now if you're interested. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.